We live in a world that celebrates being busy. Notifications, messages, meetings, endless noise. Somehow, being overwhelmed has become a badge of honor. If you're exhausted, distracted, and constantly switching tasks, it means you're important. Or at least, that's what we've been taught. But here's the quiet truth no one really talks about. Busyness is not productivity. And attention has become one of the most valuable and most abused resources we have. Most people don't struggle because they lack discipline. They struggle because their minds are being pulled in 100 directions at once. Every app wants your attention. Every notification feels urgent. Every platform is designed to keep you scrolling, clicking, reacting. So when you sit down to do something meaningful, your mind resists. Not because you don't care, but because you've been trained not to stay. Deep work is the ability to focus, without distraction, on something that truly matters. And today, that ability is becoming rare. Not because we're weak. Not because we're lazy. But because the modern world is designed to interrupt us. This video is not about forcing yourself to concentrate harder. It's about understanding what's happening to your attention and gently taking it back. When you lose the ability to focus, you don't just lose productivity. You lose clarity. Your thoughts become scattered. Your days feel full, but strangely empty. You spend hours reacting, answering messages, checking updates, jumping between tasks, yet at the end of the day, nothing meaningful feels complete. Shallow work keeps you busy. Deep work moves your life forward. It's the difference between being occupied and being intentional. Deep work is where real learning happens. It's where skills deepen. Where creativity has space to breathe. This is how writers write. How thinkers think. How meaningful ideas are formed. Without deep work, even smart, talented people feel stuck. They're always on, but rarely present. And over time, this constant mental noise creates a quiet exhaustion. Not physical tiredness, but a deeper kind. The kind that comes from never fully giving your attention to anything. This is why focus matters. Not just for success, but for a sense of meaning. Distraction feels good. Not because it helps you, but because it's easy. Every notification gives your brain a small reward. A hit of novelty. A momentary escape from effort. Your brain learns this quickly. When something feels difficult, uncertain, or slow, distraction offers relief. So instead of sitting with one thought, you reach for your phone. Instead of staying with depth, you switch tasks. Over time, your brain becomes conditioned to avoid silence. Avoid boredom. Avoid stillness. And depth requires all three. So when focus feels uncomfortable, it's not a personal failure. It's conditioning. You are not broken. You are overstimulated. The more we live in a state of constant input, the harder it becomes to sit with a single idea. And slowly, without realizing it, we lose the ability to think deeply. Focus is not a switch. It's a muscle. And muscles grow through gentle repetition, not force. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to go from constant distraction to hours of perfect concentration. That approach almost always fails. The goal is not perfect focus. The goal is returning. Each time your mind wanders, and it will, and you gently bring it back, you're training attention. That moment of return is where growth happens. Environment matters more than willpower. If your phone is nearby, your brain will negotiate. If notifications are on, focus is already compromised. Design your space to support depth. Reduce friction. Reduce noise. Choose one task. One clear intention. At first, deep work feels boring. Sometimes even uncomfortable. That discomfort is not a sign to stop. It's a sign your brain is adjusting. Stay. Because clarity lives on the other side of discomfort. Deep work is not about doing more. It's about doing less, better. It's not about intensity. It's about intention. You don't need endless hours of focus. You need consistency. Small islands of depth in a noisy world. A predictable time. A familiar place. A clear beginning and a clear end. When deep work becomes part of your rhythm, resistance softens. Deep work is not about doing more. It's about doing less, better. It's not about intensity. It's about intention. You don't need endless hours of focus. You need consistency. Small islands of depth in a noisy world. A predictable time. A familiar place. A clear beginning and a clear end. When deep work becomes part of your rhythm, resistance softens. Measure your days not by how busy they feel, but by what actually moved forward. 1 page written. 1 idea clarified. 1 meaningful step taken. A distracted life feels full, but empty. A focused life feels quiet, but deeply rich. In a world that constantly pulls you outward, the ability to go inward is a quiet superpower. Protect your attention. It quietly changes everything. Let's slow this down and make it real. Think about the last time you felt truly proud of something you created. It probably wasn't rushed. It probably didn't happen while checking messages. It likely came from a moment when you were fully there. Writers don't write their best pages between notifications. Designers don't create clarity while multitasking. Even solving a personal problem, a life decision, requires depth. Deep work shows up quietly. It shows up when you give one task your full presence. When you stop asking, "What else should I check?" and start asking, "What deserves my attention right now?" Most meaningful progress in life comes from these moments. They're not dramatic. They're focused. Here's something uncomfortable. Most people go years, sometimes decades, without experiencing real depth. Not because they don't want to, but because shallow work feels safer. Shallow work gives instant feedback. Instant validation. Instant distraction. Depth delays reward. And the human brain doesn't like waiting. So we fill our days with movement instead of meaning. We confuse activity with progress. But the cost is high. A life without depth feels scattered. Fragmented. You're everywhere, except fully where you are. Focus is not just a cognitive skill. It's emotional. Many people avoid depth because depth brings them closer to themselves. Silence leaves room for thoughts. Stillness leaves room for feelings. And that can feel uncomfortable. Distraction becomes a shield. A way to avoid boredom, uncertainty, or self-reflection. Deep work gently removes that shield. This is why it can feel heavy at first. Not because the work is hard, but because you are present. And presence takes courage. Let's make this practical. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need hours of free time. Start small. 10 minutes. No phone. 1 task. Sit with it. When your mind wanders, notice it. Return. That's it. Tomorrow, do it again. Depth grows quietly. Over time, something changes. Your mind becomes calmer. Your thoughts clearer. You stop feeling pulled in every direction. You begin to trust your ability to stay. And that trust changes how you work. How you think. How you live. In a world built on distraction, attention is freedom. And deep work is how you reclaim it. One of the biggest lies we've accepted about modern work is the idea that multitasking makes us efficient. It feels productive. Switching between emails, messages, tabs, conversations. But the brain doesn't multitask. It switches. And every switch has a cost. Each time you jump from one task to another, you leave a residue of attention behind. That residue slows you down. It clouds your thinking. So even when you return to the original task, you're not fully there anymore. Deep work is powerful because it removes this residue. It lets the mind stay whole. Busyness gives us something comforting. It gives us the feeling of progress, even when real progress isn't happening. Being busy protects us from difficult questions. Questions like, is this work meaningful? Is this where my life is going? Depth invites honesty. And honesty can feel uncomfortable. So we stay busy. Not productive, busy. Deep work asks for courage. The courage to slow down. Silence is not empty. Silence is where thoughts finish forming. When there is no constant input, the mind begins to connect ideas. This is why your best insights often come in the shower, on a walk, just before sleep. Deep work recreates that silence on purpose. It gives your mind room to speak. What you give your attention to is what you are choosing to respect. Your work. Your time. Your life. Every distraction you accept is a small agreement to be pulled away. Deep work is not discipline. It's self-respect in action. When deep work becomes regular, something subtle changes. You trust yourself more. You stop panicking at difficulty. You stop escaping discomfort. You learn that you can stay. And staying is where growth happens. You don't need to escape the world. You just need moments where the world stops pulling you. Deep work is not a productivity trend. It's a way of protecting what matters most. Your attention. Your thinking. Your life. Choose depth. Again and again.
If this resonated, stay with us. More books, more lessons, more quiet transformation, right here.